It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. 5 o'clock. It is Wednesday, July 23rd. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Clouds this morning, sunshine this afternoon, high 82. And then tonight and overnight, partly cloudy, low 70. Thursday, sunshine, warmer than it has been, high 89. If you're walking out the door with us right now, 63 and clear in New City up in Rockland County, 64 and clear in New Brunswick over in New Jersey, and it's 65 and clear right outside our Midtown studios.
The top 5 at 5.
Columbia University hands out some harsh penalties for student protesters. One candidate will like a new mayoral poll. It's raccoons and rabies in New Jersey and New York. Did a daughter kill her aging mother in Brooklyn? And a Long Island high school asking President Trump for some help. Let's get into it at 5:01. Columbia University disciplining more than 70 students over those anti-Israel protests that took over Butler Library on the Upper West Side campus earlier this year during Alumni Week. The disciplinary action comes as the university is trying to work with the White House, which in March accused the school of continued inaction in the face of persistent harassment of Jewish students on the campus. Now, students hearing about these punishments being doled out yesterday, a fair amount of them said, good.
They were hanging fake bodies. I mean, it was crazy what they were doing at Barnard, too. But when you put people in a box, they feel like they can't do nothing. That's what they're going to do. You know, we should be promoting a good dialogue about it. How can you protest in an effective way and get your voice heard in a way that actually makes sense instead of inciting violence and, you know, disrupting people during finals?
Now, these weren't slaps on the hand. Most of the disciplined students received 2-year suspensions yesterday or expulsions in the first punishments that were handed out by the university's provost office. The Trump administration withholding about $400 million in federal grants from the university as they wait to see how they deal with these issues. The university's judicial board held hearings in which respondents had an opportunity to be heard, make their case, and then determined findings, issued these sanctions approximately 10 weeks following the incident. So there were some professors and students pushing back against this, saying the penalties were too harsh for these protests.
To mete out these 2- and 3-year suspensions and expulsions, that's far beyond anything that's ever been done before for a political demonstration, and it's far too draconian.
And Columbia University also saying they agreed to ban masks on campus. That was one of the Trump administration's key demands, saying in the memo that public safety has determined that face masks or face coverings are not allowed for the purpose of concealing one's identity, especially during a protest. 5:03 over to Long Island. Nassau County declaring rabies a public health threat following a resurgence in rabid animal cases for the first time since 2016. Health Commissioner Dr. Irina Gelman's declaration comes after 3 feral cats and 22 raccoons have tested positive for rabies over the last over the last year.
They are indicative of widespread rabies in terrestrial animals north, south, east, and west in Nassau County. Let me be clear. There is no cause for alarm, as we have not yet received any reports of human transmission.
She says the declaration allows Nassau to resume the countywide rabies raccoon baiting program this fall. They're urging people with pets to avoid any contact with wild or feral animals and to ensure their pets have updated vaccines.
Unlike most other counties, Nassau County is the most densely populated county in New York State outside of New York City. That increases the potential for spread to unvaccinated domesticated pets that may act as a vector of transmission, as well as increase the potential of spread to humans.
And Dr. Gelman says no need to panic. They just want you to be proactive, like make sure your dogs have those vaccinations.
Most importantly, the goal is to raise awareness and urge the public to take simple steps. Avoid contact with wild or feral animals. and ensure pets are up to date on rabies vaccination.
And raccoons were on the attack in New Jersey over the last couple days. We'll get to that story on the other side of 5:30. 5:04. Longtime Jeffrey Epstein associate Ghislaine Maxwell set to be subpoenaed by a House Oversight Committee. California Democrat Robert Garcia says all information needs to come to light. This all connected to the Jeffrey Epstein files documents.
I think what's important right now is that we get as much information on the Epstein files, what happened, who was involved, and Democrats support that, including, of course, as we know, some Republicans.
Committee spokesperson saying they're moving to subpoena Maxwell as quickly as possible. Meanwhile, the DOJ said it would meet with Maxwell in the next several days. President Trump last week ordered Attorney General Pam Bondi to get grand jury testimony unsealed after an uproar from some of his biggest supporters when Bondi said there was no so-called client list to release. Here's more from California Democrat Robert Garcia, who's no President Trump fan.
Donald Trump is completely opposed to releasing the files. He's trying to divert. He's clearly hiding something.
No doubt he would push back from that.
She is not a good person. And at the same time, Trump is now injecting himself there, which I think should cause us some concern, knowing that she probably very well wants a pardon from Donald Trump.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what she has to say. There is a new weapon against insurance fraud here in the city.
Dash cams are being installed on hundreds of rideshare vehicles in New York City in an effort to crack down on insurance fraud.
We have cartels that have built their fortune on our industry.
That's Fernando Mateo with the New York Federation of Taxi Drivers, who says drivers are often accused of doing things they haven't done. Fraudulent accident claims cost insurance companies millions and lead to drivers losing their jobs. Lisa Ritchie, 77 WABC News.
WABC News Time 5:08 out to California, where 54-year-old Eric Menendez in the hospital has been diagnosed with what they're saying is some sort of serious medical condition. The condition has not been disclosed. Eric and Lyle Menendez were resentenced in May to 50 years to life in prison, which makes them eligible for parole, the latest step in this year-long battle for the brothers to get released after 35 years behind bars for killing their parents. The brothers have a parole hearing on August 21st, but their attorney is calling for Eric Menendez's immediate release with this medical condition. Now, he says it's bad. The hospital where he's being held, the jailed hospital, they say he's in fair condition. Governor Gavin Newsom has not spoken publicly about the hospitalization or this parole. Under clemency, he can release the Menendez brothers at any point. Here's a legal expert who's been watching this whole thing play out in California.
The way this is usually treated is like anyone else who they are now parole eligible. As a parole eligible inmate, how would his health be taken into account? And that could play a role. It could certainly play a role in their upcoming parole hearing. But as far as this being a legitimate reason for, a expedited release, I can't see that. But, I also feel like this case is one of those cases where the unpredictable seems to be happening.
Now, the Menendez family members, the aunts, uncles, cousins, minus one, have all been pushing for them to be paroled, saying that they believe that they were sexually abused by their father, and that's why they murdered them all the way back in 1989. 5:10, President Trump claims the intelligence community caught President Obama cold. The president talking about the criminal referral connected to the Obama-era officials and their reports of Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election.
This was every word you can think of. They tried to steal the election. They tried to obfuscate the election. They did things that nobody's ever even imagined, even in other countries.
The director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, alleging Obama's White House led the efforts to what she calls manufacture intelligence that Russia interfered and has since made a criminal referral to the Department of Justice.
Barack Hussein Obama is the ringleader. Hillary Clinton was right there with him, and so was Sleepy Joe Biden, and so were the rest of them. Comey, Clapper, the whole group. And they tried to rig an election, and they got caught. And then they did rig the election in 2020. Now, we found absolute, this isn't like evidence, this is like proof, irrefutable proof that Obama was seditious, that Obama was trying to lead a coup. And it was with Hillary Clinton, with all these other people.
Now, it's rare that you'll hear from a formal statement from former President Obama, but he did put one out yesterday pushing back in a statement. Obama's spokesperson called the claims outrageous, bizarre, and a weak attempt at distraction. It went on to say that nothing in the document issued last week undercuts what they say is the widely accepted conclusion that Russia worked to influence the 2016 presidential election. President Trump taking aim at Fed Chair Jerome Powell. He told reporters that Powell is a numbskull over his refusal to lower interest rates.
He keeps the rates too high and probably doing it for political reasons. The only time I remember him cutting rates, he cut the rates just before the election to try and help Kamala or whoever he was trying to help. He probably didn't know.
And the president again threatening that Powell will be out very soon. Now, he doesn't have the power to push him out, but he wants him gone.
People aren't able to buy a house because this guy is a numbskull. I think he's doing a bad job, but he's going to be out pretty soon anyway. In eight months, he'll be out. But I call him too late. He's too late all the time. He should have lowered interest rates many times.
Yeah, the president's been very upset with him not lowering those interest rates. While we're talking about President Trump, he says the feds have Adam Schiff 100% on mortgage fraud.
Now it looks like Adam Schiff really did a bad thing. They have him. It's mortgage loan fraud. It's a big deal. He defrauded banks and insurance companies and the federal government.
A possible criminal case against Schiff has been referred to the Justice Department. Schiff speaking out as he has over the last 48 hours, calling this all total nonsense. 5:13, the president has reached a trade agreement with Japan. He touted the deal, which includes a 15% tariff on Japan's exports to the U.S.
But I just signed the largest trade deal in history. I think maybe the largest deal in history with Japan.
He says Japan will also invest $550 billion in the U.S. in what he called perhaps the largest deal ever made.
We worked on it long and hard, and it's a great deal for everybody. I always say it has to be great for everybody. It's a great deal, but we're doing really well as a country. We're strong. We have a lot of money flowing in. The tariffs are kicked in better than anybody other than me and a few of the people in the room thought could happen.
And President Trump announcing a trade deal with the Philippines yesterday. That announcement he made on social media. He says the Philippines is going what he calls open market with the U.S. and zero tariffs. 5:14, Congressman Thomas Massey says President Trump's threats against him will backfire.
The president has launched a targeted campaign against the Kentucky congressman who voted against the president's big, beautiful bill and denounced last month's military strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities. According to Massey, his political rivals have spent $1.8 billion to go against him, but efforts have had very little effect. Massey is confident in his campaign, saying, "I am going to prevail." And he added his actions will embolden members of Congress to go with their constituents and not just toe the party line. I'm Chris Carangio.
In a moment, we'll go overseas, in particular to Gaza, and see the latest there. But first, 5:15, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. A happy Wednesday. Good morning, Justin Ellick.
Happy Wednesday. Good morning to you, Noam Layden. Start here out in Queens. Francisco Alvarez hit a tying homer in his second game back from the minors, and Ryan Stanek retired Mike Trout with 2 runners aboard for the final out as the Mets rallied to beat the LA Angels 3-2. Brandon Nimmo capped a 3-run 5th inning with a go-ahead single, and Frankie Montas won his 3rd straight start. After overcoming a 4-run deficit in Monday night's series opener, New York won its 3rd in a row, and Montas settled in after a rocky start and walked off the mound to a warm ovation. After 5 2/3 innings of work, he permitted 2 runs and 8 hits, striking out 6. One low point, Mets shortstop Francisco Lindor went 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts, and he is hitless in his last 30 at-bats. It's the longest drought of his career. Up next for the Mets, who remain a half game back of Philadelphia for first place in the NL East, Sean Manaea is tabbed to start in the finale of this 3-game series against the Angels this afternoon. First pitch is scheduled for 1:10 p.m. from Citi Field, with the Mets vying for the sweep. In Toronto, Ben Rice hit a tie-breaking home run in the 9th inning. Jazz Chisholm Jr. and Cody Bellinger also homered, and the Yankees beat the Toronto Blue Jays 5-4. Rice connected off Blue Jays closer closer Jeff Hoffman for his 15th home run as the Yankees snapped a 5-game losing streak against Toronto. Ian Hamilton got one out for the win, and Devin Williams finished for his 15th save in 16 chances. New York led 4-2 before a throwing error by Yankee shortstop Anthony Volpe opened the door to a game-tying rally in the 6th. The error was Volpe's 13th, tying him for the most in the majors. It was his second error in 2 games, making his second career start. Yankees right-hander Cam Schlittler allowed 2 runs and 7 hits in 5 innings. He walked 3 and struck out 3. Up next for the Yankees, who now sit 3 games back of the Blue Jays for first place in the AL East. The A's' Max Fried will get the start in tonight's series finale and a rubber game scheduled for a 7:07 p.m. first pitch from Toronto, I should say. And to the NFL, today is the day. Veterans reported for the start of training camp for both the Jets and the Giants yesterday. Media day there with open practices beginning today for the G-men. If you're going, gates are opening up there at 8:30 a.m. Practice starts at 10 a.m. And on Friday for Gang Green for Jets fans. The opening preseason contest in the 2025 Hall of Fame game will be played next Thursday, July 31st, featuring the Detroit Lions and the LA Chargers. That's your Sports Gnome, and I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC, News Time 520. The foreign ministers of more than 24 countries continue to put pressure on the Israelis and Hamas to end that war in Gaza and for all the hostages held by Hamas to be released. Correspondent Matt Bradley has more from the Middle East.
28 Western countries, including the UK and France, criticized Israel's drip-feeding of aid and inhumane killing of civilians, including children in Gaza. In response, Israel blamed Hamas for starting the war and prolonging it, saying Hamas is responsible for suffering on both sides.
Canada, the UK, France, Australia, among the nations signing on to that statement. U.S. Ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, criticized the statement as disgusting, saying that Gaza suffers because of Hamas and the blaming of Israel is irrational.
American Ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, slammed the joint statement as irrational and disgusting. It comes after questions over aid in Gaza, after at least 100 people were killed Sunday while waiting for food. The IDF said it fired warning shots against a threat.
28 countries have signed on to that statement calling for an end to the war in Gaza. 521, let's bring it back home, go down to Texas, where lawyers for Texas cop killer Otis McCain trying to get his death sentence overturned now. His sister spoke at an appeals court hearing yesterday explaining how her brother's mental health slowly deteriorated.
He had conspiracy theories and aliens.
She says her brother would smoke drugs, spend all day in his room talking to himself.
He believed that aliens would make a better world for us to live in. On his own, he had a notepad.
What was in the notepad?
Drawings.
Drawings of what?
Of the aliens.
Lawyers for McCain say that at his trial, he was called a psychopath. They say that tainted the jury, which found McCain guilty of murdering San Antonio Police Detective Benjamin, back in 2016. 522. Tributes to Ozzy Osbourne just been pouring in from around the world following his death yesterday. Fellow British rock icon Elton John called Ozzy a dear friend, a huge trailblazer who secured his place in the pantheon of rock gods. Heavy metal reality TV star Ozzy Osbourne died yesterday at 76, and correspondent Joe Fryer says the rocker came out of what was a bleak childhood to eventual heavy metal stardom.
Osbourne was born in 1948 in Birmingham, England. As a young boy, he never could have imagined decades later he'd perform for the Queen, singing at her Golden Jubilee in 2002.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Osbourne enjoyed a successful solo career after starting off, of course, as the lead singer of Black Sabbath.
It was a career filled with accomplishments, winning Grammy Awards, a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and the creation of Ozfest, a successful music festival that boosted up-and-coming bands.
He died after a series of ailments and surgeries. I mean, he had drug addictions. He did a lot to his body over the years. The president and CEO of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame speaking out about Osbourne's legacy yesterday.
Really the godfather of metal. If you open up the dictionary, it's going to be Ozzy Osbourne. And he was inducted with Black Sabbath into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame way back in 2006. And then he went in just last year right here in Cleveland as a solo artist.
You probably saw some clips of his final show earlier this month in Birmingham, England, which is where he's from in the UK. And they had him sitting essentially on a throne during the show, could no longer stand. But he did have that final show, which is pretty great.
In fact, he thanks Randy Rhoads in his induction speech that without him it wouldn't have happened. A unbelievable guitar player, and the two of them were just a remarkable combination, and that's what really launched his solo career. You're dead on.
Now, his family, who we got to know, of course, during his reality show on MTV, putting out a statement that he died surrounded by family and friends. No word yet on a funeral. 524, thousands are headed to Comic-Con in San Diego this week. That's the biggest Comic-Con of them all, and authorities are watching out again for human trafficking during the convention. Last year, 14 people were arrested, 10 victims rescued, including a 16-year-old girl.
Making sure that people understand that here in San Diego, we will enforce the law, that sex trafficking is illegal, is something we take seriously. Buying human beings for sex will be prosecuted.
District Attorney Summer Stephan saying they're doing another operation here at this Comic-Con, and they expect, they'll probably find more of this, hopefully not as much.
We want everybody to be aware that our human trafficking task force is very active. It's a gold standard. And last year we showed that we had many arrests for criminal buyers, for sex buyers.
525, let's go down to Washington, D.C., where the mayor there, Muriel Bowser, says she's not concerned about that social media post by President Trump saying that he won't make a deal for a new stadium on federal land in the district if the Commanders don't change their name back to the Redskins.
We need to complete our part so that the team can get to work, so that local businesses can get hired, so that we can start earning the tax revenue that will come when we deliver the Commanders Stadium.
Now, some Commanders fans yesterday say they don't want another name change. Right? They went from the Redskins to no name to then the Commanders.
I think the president needs to stay in his lane. Stick to running other things that's more important.
Last year was a great year, so why go back?
And it was great to hear from Joe Theismann, who spoke with Sid on Sid and Friends in the Morning yesterday. Of course, he piloted Washington to 2 Super Bowls, and he kind of played both sides, which I get why. He says he was very proud of his Redskin heritage.
The Native Americans really love the name. I respect them so much, and I was so proud to be called a Redskin. A Washington Redskin football player. I was so proud of that. And the helmet was the design was done by one of the Chiefs.
But Theismann also says the Commanders have really established themselves in D.C. with the fan base now that they are playing well, especially last season.
This group of young players that play for Washington, the Commanders, they established something last year. They captured a fan base back. They put on a product on the field that everybody's proud of. This city is a buzz.
And he told Sid yesterday there is one huge upside to Washington keeping the Commanders' name.
The records I have with the Redskins will never be broken.
Yeah, he's right about that.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Wednesday, July 23rd. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Clouds this morning, sunshine this afternoon. Let's try that again. Clouds this morning, sunshine this afternoon, another beauty on the way. High 82. Tonight and overnight, partly cloudy, low 70. And then Thursday, sunshine, a little warmer, high 89. If you are walking out the door with us right now, so happy you are. 63 clear in New City up in Rockland County. 64 and clear in New Brunswick over in New Jersey. And it's 65 and clear right outside our Midtown studios. WABC News Time 5:38. Let's go to Bensonhurst, Brooklyn, where an 86-year-old woman was found dead in her home on Monday afternoon. Cops were sent there for a wellness check. When they got there, they found her unconscious, unresponsive, identified as Kim 2. Emergency crews pronounced her dead at the scene. Police are still waiting on the medical examiner to determine how this woman died. But yesterday, police did show up, and they took the woman's daughter out in handcuffs. And people in the neighborhood said they were always scared of this woman, the daughter, that
The
is.
unfortunate thing is I think was some mental illness. She would come out and walk up and down the block yelling and sometimes some foul language. So like if you were walking down the street, you would cross.
And police say that they have not confirmed, or I should say they have not confirmed to us, if they're investigating this as a homicide. That is, the same neighbors say the mother was delightful when she was out.
It's sad to see that she's gone and, at such a frail age and state that she was in.
We reached out to the NYPD for more details on this case. Have not heard back. 5:40. Let's head out to the campaign for mayor here in the city. A growing number of labor unions, elected officials are endorsing Zohran Mamdani for mayor since he won the Democratic primary back in June. But some key New York power brokers in D.C. especially are still holding out, including the Democratic House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries.
On Friday, we agreed to reconvene with other members of the delegation and high-level community leaders in Brooklyn upon his return to the country.
Yeah, so no endorsement yet from Hakeem Jeffries, even though Zohran Mamdani is the Democratic nominee for mayor here in New York. Senator Chuck Schumer, the top Democrat in the Senate, says he's spoken with Mamdani since the primary win, but so far he has not offered an endorsement. Now, there are others who are endorsing his candidacy. Here's Congresswoman Nydia Velázquez, who says she doesn't understand why others are holding off their endorsement.
Look, everyone has to do what they got to do, and but I hope that for the sake of unity and also cultivating young voters, that we come together and endorse him.
Unlike in years past, it seems everybody is invested in this race in such a big way, including Israeli Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu spoke out against the Democratic Socialist state lawmaker on the Full Send podcast. Netanyahu called out the notion of defunding the police and letting robbers go free, saying sometimes you have to get mugged by reality to understand how stupid that is. But Mamdani denies he'll defund the NYPD. That said, back in December, he did say he'd arrest Netanyahu for alleged war crimes in Gaza if he sets foot in New York, and that's in response to an arrest warrant issued by the International Criminal Court. James Flippin for 77 WABC News.
Mayor Adams may still be the favorite candidate of the city's business and real estate community. Interviews with its members show many are opting to back Adams in the general election over Andrew Cuomo after Cuomo lost the primary. Now, the mayor's raised $1.5 million in his latest fundraising filing, almost $70,000 contributed by employees of the real estate company SL Green, which is vying to build a casino in Times Square. Mark Holliday is the company's chair. He talked a little bit about this to New York One yesterday.
We've been pretty clear in what we, look for in a mayor in terms of being, both pro-business, but also, active in social causes and affordability. And we think Mayor Adams has achieved that.
And there's one PAC called Empower New York, which was formed earlier this year to boost the mayor's prospects. They've raised about $500,000, and they say a fair amount of that money has come from deep-pocketed donors who don't believe that Andrew Cuomo can win the race for mayor in November. But they may want to look at this new poll that is out this morning that says former Governor Andrew Cuomo would squeak out a win over Zohran Mamdani in a two-way race. Now, of course, it's not a two-way race, and there's nothing to suggest that it'll ever be a two-way race, but this new poll is out from WIC this morning. It has, if all the candidates are in the race, it has Mamdani walking away with it. 39% of the vote to Cuomo's 21%. Curtis Sliwa, the Republican nominee, at 19%, and Adams in fourth place at 9%. But then if you make this a two-way race, which there's some of the candidates have vied for, you have Andrew Cuomo who said, come September. If he's not in second place to Mamdani, he would drop out of the race, encourage other candidates to as well, and endorse whoever's in second place. So in a potential two-way race in this poll, Mamdani received Cuomo was at 42% and Mamdani was at 41%. So it'd still be a very close race, but he's the only one, according to the survey, that could do that. In a two-way race between Adams and Mamdani, Mamdani would win 47 to 37%. In a two-way race between Mamdani and Curtis Sliwa, Mamdani would win 53% to 35%. The poll surveyed 500 likely New York City voters from July 18th to July 20th with a 4.4% margin of error. It's interesting to look at these polls, but of course it's only July 23rd. The election's in November. That's a long ways away. 5:45. Let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. Good morning, Justin L.
Let's do it in Noam Lighting. Good morning to you as well. Start on the diamond here in Queens. Francisco Alvarez hit a tying homer in his second game back from the minors, and Ryan Stanek retired Mike Trout with two runners aboard for the final out as the Mets rallied to beat the LA Angels 3-2. Brandon Nimmo capped a 3-run fifth with a go-ahead single, and Frankie Montas won his third straight start. And after overcoming a 4-run deficit in Monday night's series opener, New York has won its third in a row. Montas settled in after a rocky start and walked off the mound to a warm ovation. After 5 2/3 innings of work, he permitted 2 runs and 8 hits, striking out 6. One low point here, Mets shortstop Francisco Lindor went 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts, and he is hitless now in his last 30 at-bats. That's the longest drought of his career, dating back to his days in Cleveland. Up next for the Mets, who remain a half game back of Philadelphia for first place in the NL East, Sean Manaea is tabbed to start in the finale of this 3-game series against the Angels this afternoon. First pitch is scheduled for 1:10 p.m. from Citi Field, with the Mets vying for the sweep. In Toronto, Ben Rice hit a tie-breaking home run in the 9th inning. Jazz Chisholm Jr. and Cody Bellinger also homered, and the Yankees beat the Toronto Blue Jays 5-4. Rice connected off Blue Jays closer Jeff Hoffman for his 15th home run as the Yankees snapped a 5-game losing streak against Toronto. Ian Hamilton got one out for the win, and Devin Williams finished for his 15th save in 16 chances. New York led 4-2 before throwing error by shortstop Anthony Volpe opened the door to a game-tying rally in the 6th. The error was Volpe's 13th, tying him for the most in the majors. It was his second error in 2 games. Making his second career start, Yankees right-hander Cam Schlittler allowed 2 runs and 7 hits in 5 innings. He walked 3 and struck out 3. Up next for the Yanks, who now sit 3 games back of the Jays for first place in the AL East. The A's Max Fried will get the start in tonight's series finale and a rubber game scheduled for a 7:07 p.m. first pitch from Toronto. And today is the day here in the NFL or across the league. Veterans reported for the start of training camp for both the Jets and the Giants yesterday, with open practices beginning today for the G-Men. If you are heading over there, gates open at 8:30 a.m. Practice does start at 10 a.m. You want to be on time. And on Friday, you get the Jets' first public practice there as well. The opening preseason contest in the 2025 Hall of Fame game will be played next Thursday, July 31st, featuring the Detroit Lions and the LA Chargers. That's your Sports Know, man. I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:49. Let's go down below to the subways. More elevators about to be installed at subway stations across the system. Of course, that's great news for New Yorkers who are dealing with wheelchairs, strollers, walkers. They've complained for years about access to subway stations that don't have elevators.
Accessibility is about giving people autonomy, giving people agency to move around their community and all of the city on their own time.
That's the MTA's chief accessibility officer, who uses a wheelchair to get around, so he knows better than most. Jano Lieber, who's the MTA chair, says more than 200 of the city's 472 subway stations have elevators, and more, or working on more. They want to have all this done by 2029, but it costs a lot of money to just build these things, billions of dollars.
Accessibility is a right. It's a legal right, and it serves some of the most economically challenged populations in our city.
I said billions, I meant millions of dollars, but they say $2 billion in congestion pricing will help pay for those upgrades. There's 5,000 more after-school seats being added for K through 5th graders across the city starting this September.
Participate in sports, robotics, the arts, tennis lessons, all of those things that children should enjoy after after the classroom experience.
Mayor Adams says the $21 million investment keeps the city on pace for free universal after-school seats in the next 3 school years. The 40 schools where the extra seats are going were selected based on economic need and service gaps in those communities. With fewer parking spots across the city these days, we've seen an uptick in fights over those spots. I mean, I feel like this is going on for decades because parking's always an issue. There was the latest one. A mother and daughter allegedly attacked a 21-year-old girl for trying to park in a spot that they were saving in Queens. You can't save spots. People will try. New Yorkers weigh in on that idea of saving spots. This is the time of year, people put out their patio chair, in the middle of the street to save a spot, or a cone, a traffic cone, something like that.
Being civic, gotta look out for one another, right? As human beings.
No, they shouldn't be able to. If I was driving and somebody is holding a spot already, I'd let it slide. But if I'm backing up into the spot and somebody jumps and said I'm holding this to somebody, that's a different story.
I hate when that happens. You'd pull in, there's somebody standing there, I'm saving the spot for somebody. No. They're not there. It's my spot. But of course, do you want to get into a battle with them trying to back into the spot when they're standing there? That's what led to this fight between this mother and daughter and this 21-year-old. The mom and daughter, they've been charged with assault and harassment.
No idea that it was a hot button topic until right now.
Because there's shrinking parking spaces available, and people don't understand. It's crazy over here. It's hard enough. I mean, you pay more and get less and less and less.
Yeah, meantime, recent data shows New York City lost roughly 8,000 parking spots to outdoor dining, bike lanes, and delivery hubs. That's a lot of spots in a place where there's just not enough for all the cars that want to park each night. 552, out to Long Island, where Nassau County officials continue to warn neighbors about the spread of rabies. Local lawmakers, the Department of Health, and animal rescue workers are all warning about a big uptick in rabies cases, especially among raccoons. Also has spread to feral cats. So they're telling you, if you're a pet owner, be careful when you're out there.
I'd say for pet owners, you want your dog or cat vaccinated against rabies.
It's just been a terrible, terrible year for raccoons.
Yeah, rabies have been found in at least 25 animals over the last year, including raccoons and feral cats. Health officials advising residents to avoid contact with wild animals, ensure your pet's vaccinated, and of course seek immediate health care or medical care if you're bitten or scratched. While we're out on Long Island, the fight to preserve the Chiefs mascot in the Massapequa School District has now reached the highest level of American politics. The Massapequa School Board has formally asked President Trump to intervene, asking him to sign an executive order that would protect Native American mascots and imagery nationwide. Now, Massapequa has been told that if they don't get rid of their Chiefs mascot, the state school board will pull back money they need to run the school. But last night, the school board president in Massapequa says, no, we're going to keep this Chiefs name because students want it, parents want it, teachers want it.
We want to preserve our heritage. We want to preserve our Native American history. I think it's misguided when they say to ban Native American imagery and logos because you are erasing them. We're forgetting our past.
Now, the president knows about this battle. In fact, back in April, he held up a Massapequa sweatshirt at the White House. That photo went out in a gesture of solidarity. In May, you had U.S. Education Secretary Linda McMahon. She visited the Massapequa district and pledged to challenge the state's ban. Now, it's not clear they can do anything, but the state school board president is asking for President Trump for help.
We're hoping that he sees it, and we're hoping that he will respond.
So far this time around, anyway, the president has not responded. 554. New Jersey, a new weather alert system is installed in 14 parks around Patterson that will alert residents of extreme weather and whether to seek shelter or not. Because this has been an issue in the last month or so. You had that terrible lightning strike that took place at an archery range in Jackson, New Jersey, that killed a volunteer who worked there and injured a bunch of people, 14 of them, some of them Cub Scouts who were there for a lesson. So there is a call to warn people about weather systems that are moving in. The mayor in Patterson, Andre Sea, announcing yesterday the installation of what's called the Perry Weather Alert System, which offers real-time weather monitoring, these automated alerts, and will warn people who are on like a baseball field that you should, move inside.
This system will alert residents through sirens and strobe lights, and we can give instructions in multiple languages.
It will provide real-time weather monitoring, so we'll know about lightning strikes, we'll know about wind. Any weather-related incident that occurs, we will be notified.
The system consists of 14 stations that are strategically placed across the city to warn families of potential dangerous weather conditions.
There's a storm 10 miles away, lightning strikes, we clear the field. It comes 5 miles, we clear the field. If lightning keeps hitting within the vicinity of our detection center, they cannot get back on the field for 30 minutes.
Yeah, all right, good idea. And in Hauppauge, Long Island, nice moment yesterday for a 12-year-old kid. His name is Wyatt Hoper. He was named an honorary sheriff for the day. Got to sit at Sheriff Errol Tulins Jr.'s desk and meet with deputies. He's battling kidney failure and is preparing for a life-saving transplant. So they just wanted to give him a great moment before he goes under the knife. And they did that yesterday. He really enjoyed his time hanging out in the sheriff's office. Here's his mom.
He has to go through so much that an adult would have a hard time dealing with, let alone a 12-year-old. So seeing him so happy, it's just a really, it's an indescribable feeling.
Yeah, it was nice to watch. Earlier this month, Hoper was invited to spend the day with the Hauppauge firefighters. He enjoyed that very much as well. His surgery, that's scheduled for Monday. Of course, we're hoping for the best.
Thanks for listening to the News Hour with Noam Laden. You can hear the News Hour with Noam Laden weekday mornings at 5 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode, so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?